Okie dokie. So, got that whole half second of the menu screen showing. Which, to be fair, probably would have been better if I had not started loading. And in any case, they dropped another update today. Technically, a very small one. Just labeled as the 2.0 update, which changes even more things, which I'm going to be going over because kind of feels like it's a lot. So to begin with, I'll pop the console companion down and question why the audio is cutting in and out so badly. So I'm just going to restart that app entirely, actually. But in the meantime, oopsies. Bad. Man, console companion is struggling today. Cool, I'll just leave that as is and hope it doesn't cause issues. Alright. Oh, we got a message. Instead of only being able to strafe. Righto. No idea what that's going on about. But in any case, yeah, so basically they changed the name to Crossout 2.0, which is weird because I don't think they ever officially said it was out of the beta stage, but now I guess they're like, oh, by the way, we have been for however long, so I guess that's related to them dropping the Supercharged update. It's meant to be the main title release, maybe? I don't know. But yeah, this is a very small one, as you can see, considering the large length and breadth of the other update. That's not terribly surprising, but in any case, get the ye old garage, although you can't use the testing range. I don't even know what it is because I haven't, or I wasn't around when that was a thing, I don't think. And then the 7 days of premium, neat. But as far as the changes, very minor and yet significant. So they're touching hovers again, and to be fair, this is, as I sort of posted about, wow, there's a lot of people talking now, dang. They've been like absolutely ratioed in like all of the new things for the last like month. Dang, fairly pop off. Anyway, I was saying that like the main update is still the main update, and this is sort of the knock-on one for the changes that they kind of didn't get around to. So this is related to the prior video that I did that I haven't even written timestamps for because I was planning on doing that today, and I probably still will. And then this happened, but they have the Supercharged update, which was rather lengthy. So they had the camera changes where which is actually relevant to the other conversation with the other dude talking about omnidirectional controls. But I did go over it in the what this. Well, I don't know what to tell you, Holmes. Which is relevant to this, so they changed it so that where is thought it would have been under controls. Oh, sorry. I guess it's not under camera. I suppose that makes sense. So yeah, they're saying that, which is relevant to what I was saying here, is that under the new system, and I talked about it in the other video, which has to be timestamped, I said that, yeah, basically if you move the left analog stick around, your car moves in that direction. So if you're here, normally what would happen is if you hold forward and right, you go forward and then start turning, whereas under the new system, if you hold forward and right on something that can strafe, you'd go diagonal instead. If you hold right, go right, left otherwise. Whereas on the old system, if you wanted to go to the right on a thing that could strafe / was omnidirectional, you had to use the strafe key to go left or right. So you could still use that in combination and do whatever shape stuff you wanted. But as a result, they also locked the camera so that moving forward is always going the direction the camera's facing, so that also helps you turn a little bit easier, but you basically have to use both sticks for that now, which can be problematic for some people trying to aim certain builds or fixed angle weaponry. So they were originally planning on making this not optional, but they listened to feedback and were like, oh shit, turns out if you like completely change and force a change on all of the movements, even for vehicles that aren't affected by it, namely wheels, people don't like that. Then they also did a bunch of changes to hovers, and they're trying to make the sideways hovers less effective, so they made them more tilty, and they separated the two hovers with stat differences, and I went over that as well. So wow, and a Discord notification. Aren't I just popular today? Yeet. So I did some comparison of the old and new hover parts. I got rid of the old stats because I thought they were going to be for serious about keeping the changes, and then of course they changed them again. Let's see if I can find the one with the two comparisons. Not that one. Yeah, there we go. So we compared the old stats and the new stats, and lo and behold, we get to do it again, baby. Oh, I'm just gonna eat those there, and it'll get angry. And we'll say old, old, older, old. Great, and then we can add in our new ones as well. Cry every time because the borders never seem to act like I want them to. Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and make this as difficult as possible. Okay. Got our new stats there for the IVs. Gonna get our new stats there. So I want to shove this onto the other screen and then write that as we look at the new ones. But basically my point being that like this is just sort of a knock-on update as a result of the other ones, because they like were originally trying to prevent sideways builds entirely by doing the locked scheme with the camera, and then you wouldn't be able to rotate or look in a different direction than you're firing. But people hated that. So they did a couple of other things instead, and now they're sort of going and updating that again. So that's basically what we're going to be looking at here, is the hovers being changed again. They are honestly probably getting a buff more than anything else, but I'll get these new values written down here. So the Icarus 7 now has same power score, same power drain, same speed limit, tonnage is reduced to 900, durability is reduced to 193, and the 4 has durability reduced from 315 to 252. So just slight durability nerfs basically here. Then they also changed the side projection damage. So another part of what I mentioned in my comment is kind of silly. So side projection damage means that if you hit it from the side of the hover, or rather if you hit it from the end, I suppose, rather, it's supposed to take more damage. So increased by 50% with the last update, although they didn't actually mention it. And then now it's supposed to be 30% for both of them. So as I mentioned, as far as redundancies, whoopsie, I don't need to follow myself, that's silly. The change to make them snap on all sides is a buff functionally, but then they also made them symmetrical. So like, what's the point of letting them free place? Because they had to definitely make a new system for that, or rather I guess they just borrowed the hologram ones, which are fixed rotation, so the ones that you can't like flip up vertically because they put an image above the ground. So they probably just stole that. No, actually, because that doesn't auto rotate anyway. So yeah, so they had to modify their movement system. And now there's precedent for other movement parts, which we'll definitely get asked about, and we'll, if they implement it, we'll eventually just get boxes of Goliaths. So it just kind of seems silly to do both of those. Likewise, they reduce their durability, and then they have the damage from side. Although this is, I should note that, like, relative to prior updates, not in this update specifically, that they're increasing the side damage. And then I still think the 7 got overbuffed. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff changing as a result of this. So we're gonna see how on fire matchmaking is later today. Not right now. Later today. So looking at the, thank you OBS, very cool. So looking at the values for the new ones. Man, Crossout is really just dying in the background, isn't it? What is you doing, Crossout? Why are you so angry? as fun as soon as I ask how it's doing. Alright, anyway, yeah, so for stat changes, I mean, it's just the durability, so they ended up getting, I don't actually track durability, so yeah, all these values are identical, aren't they? Funny that. Well, heck, I guess that makes it kind of harder to do the comparison, doesn't it? Or I guess the, what is it, the tonnage would have changed. But how is the tonnage the same value? Oh, because these are, why are these, oh, I messed up, that's why. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Okay, so tonnage per power went down with the update, which makes sense. Tonnage divided by everything, I mean, got changed obviously. Tonnage per power should also change. How can that be the same value? Oh, I see. So they reduced, wait, no. Net tonnage gain, so that's also, yeah, values instead of, oh, apply. There we go. So basically nerfs to all of the values that I track here, which are just tonnage, effectively. But nerfs to all of the tonnage values on the hover, so it's now back to worst in class, or worst. How is 23.9 better than 112.5? Oh man, I'm losing my mind here. Conditional formatting. Manage rules. This worksheet. Yeah, it's fine. Man, I did mess up, didn't I? Let's see. So if D value contains, well, that doesn't make sense. Value contains, yeah, we want the coloring for C, so we don't want it for D. Great, so we want the C values colored, we want the graded color scale across all parts, so we want it to go from P3, yeah, so I missed the middle chunk because I pasted. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to delete y'all 4, and we're going to make y'all Q2 to Q58, P2 R2 to R58, and etc. Boom. Okay, excellent. So as I was discussing priorly, the values for the old, i.e. pre-supercharged update, were the worst in class, or sorry, the worst of like any of them, other than a couple, evidently, as you can see with the other red values that are very close, which are basically restricted to the worst of each category's wheels in the steering, which have doubled power cost compared to their regular ones. Although I think they're changing that again, or something, they touched up on it in the update, I don't know. So when we deleted these values, everything shifted significantly, just because they drag down the average so far. But when you do that here, it's a little more apparent, like the entire scale shifts color for anything that's in the orange or yellow category, just due to how bad the hovers were comparatively. So like I was saying, their tonnage per power score tripled nearly when they dropped their power score from 520 and 420 to 220 each. So that's the bulk of my complaint. because having a higher speed limit isn't like a huge concern of mine per se, as long as the other stats are balanced. But that plus the durability increase like is pretty severe, and then the tonnage increase as well, obviously. So it looks like they walked back about half of the tonnage increase. So instead of being plus 300, it's plus 150, and instead of having plus 50% ish of the durability, it's only plus 25% ish. And it looks like that's consistent for both of them for the value changes, other than obviously the tonnage didn't get touched on the Icarus 4. But I mean, they still are significantly further ahead than their original values. The Icarus 7 is a lot more in line to what it was for being literally one of the worst period for the tonnage per mass, which makes sense. I haven't actually done the durability calculations on these thus far, but I suppose I could implement them here based on what we care about for values. No, not you. So durability per power score and mass. Volume's a little bit more finicky to calculate, but I think it's worthwhile to do anyway, just to show the difference with the change today. So I'm just gonna eat those. Oh, yuck. Yeah. Just eat that there. Yes. Header it. All these. Then Dura per power score. I probably could have gotten away with just adding another row. Whatever, this is messy, but it'll work. So durability per power score. Dura per mass. And Dura per volume, which most of these will be missing since I don't have the volume stat on most of them, but that's fine. So durability divided by, no, not home. Be divided by power score, durability divided by mass. And it's actually kind of funny because, as Bangshield has pointed out, despite not contributing to cabin HP, why are you struggling so hard, Crossout? I don't get it. A couple of the movement parts actually have better durability per mass or volume or power score or whatever than some of the actual structural parts, just by nature of the values they have. So I think namely the Bigfoot wheels are the example that he uses. Why you gotta do me so dirty like that, Crossout? Actually, I wonder if there's something with the headset, since even the system is being fucky right now. What is he doing? I can't even... No struggle. Obviously, another not well planned out video today. You are not prepared. Indeed. Cool, well that audio is acting properly. Here's hoping it does likewise. Okay, so what else? I don't think any other changes are worthwhile noting for that. So if we look at that and then go blup, we'll probably see again that there is some distinct outliers. Yeah, durability per power score, some of these are whack because I don't think you can get Yeah, most of the structural parts don't get anywhere near there, other than when you include their effective durability. Yeah, with the fire starter prestige ones being the craziest ones. So it looks like some of the syndicate, some of the heavy machine, and then the Steppenwolfs gets to nearly 3. Actually, I guess that's regular for it, isn't it? Being in the 2 category. Where's the Bigfoot wheels? 1.9. So it's not even significant there, to be honest. Durability per mass. Route 2, we actually hit 3 with some of the light wheels. Okay, yeah, so this is the value he was talking about then, evidently, not durability per power score, durability per mass. Very, 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 very few parts get above the 1 value. If even close. The ones that do are all going to be the buggy pass-through parts. Meanwhile, wheels can easily eclipse all of them except for the effective durability. But the effective durability, again, doesn't contribute to cabin HP, and neither does the movement parts. But I suppose that's what they were talking about, especially, let's see, looks like Hermit wheels are probably one of the best examples. We can add more conditional formatting. First time it's where it is PQR S. This is U. So that should color them nice. And then the next one will be V. And Bang Shield is messaging me again. Oh, don't you worry, buddy. We are covering them today. Good, and then theoretically, if I implement the last category fully, we can also do that, but for the sake of just comparing the hovers, it's probably not going to be a huge thing. So yeah, so it looks like the durability per power square, they were significant outliers. The next closest values were 0.95, 3 times ahead of them, and then they severely shifted it by getting rid of them or by doing the stat change, so everything should see a sizable shift in color. Yeah, so your worst is now the 0.95. So probably more obvious up there where there's more orange, but I mean the best values are going to stay the best. They're going to stay green. So yeah, significant shifts where actually the 0.2 update ended up still being the worst value for them. But obviously a lot more in line with what they were than these values, which end up being better than Omnis and about as good as most of the higher tier light wheels. Crazy. So the values look better now, certainly, with the post-update, as far as durability for their size, because, again, these were just significant outliers. I feel like at the same time, though, they really do need to be fragile, given the nature of all their benefits, especially not being able to go 95 kph, but I guess we'll go and see how that turns out. So as far as the size thing, this is where she gets interesting. So they kind of fielded the idea that they would make the hovers symmetrical, and they're like, oh, that's, well, at least me is like, oh, that's a good solution for getting rid of sideways hovers, because then there's no benefit to having it sideways in front of your cabin. Or sorry, sideways behind your cabin, as far as them being protected. You still get the larger, wider, longer hitbox of the cabin, since normally they're longer than they are wide, to help protect them, but you lose the more narrow profile of the hover, because instead of looking at something at from a profile view where it's only half as wide, it's literally the same. So they went through with that instead of the fixed forced camera changes, which in my eyes is definitely preferable, but they went about it in a super weird way. So I don't really know a good way to show or prove this, since they've changed all the values in game, of course. But it used to be that the hovers were 7x4 by however tall they are, and now they are 4x4 by however tall they are. So they very much just like halved the relative size of them. And I do actually have a couple of builds that use it as an example, which we can look at the changes as a result, but I do already have them downloaded. I will note though that due to the change, they did some weird stuff with how they actually calculated it now in game. So they shrunk all of them, very noticeable, and so they repositioned most of them on builds, and as a result those builds no longer work due to parts colliding, which again makes sense. Oh, they totally did not change the controls. Somebody said they changed them back. Oh, we'll get to that because that's a minor unrelated thing. It is part of the update, but somewhat unrelated. So they used to be large enough, 7 long. Technically, I think 8. No, it was 7. From the front to back of them. There we go. Sort of a bad example, actually. I would much rather have the one with the actual machinist. So I did sell the machinist because they offered me something I couldn't say no to, which is lots of money, way too much money, a gross amount of money. The stream is really crapping out today, my goodness. I know I changed some encoding settings today with the update for OBS. I wonder if any of that's relevant. Well, I want to point out their encoder settings here. They have it sorted ultra fast to super fast to very fast to faster to fast. So it goes from faster to slower in a very weird naming convention. So what are we on currently? Very fast, and it is struggling. So what if we make you super fast instead? Maybe it'll be nicer. Guess we'll find out. It's also possible it's my Xbox having issues connecting with the PC, which might be the issue. Anyway, so that's what it was looking like beforehand, and I actually made videos about it, but then I proceeded to sell the machinist because money. So I just have a cohort as a placeholder there currently. And I did mess around with the actual placement of them some more further, but as a example of how they looked, oh, I don't even know if I have rough. What would be the best way to do this? Probably not like this, but that's the way I'm going to go. I'm going to delete my changes on it, and then I am going to re-download what there was to sort of show y'all what it originally looked like. Let's Ingy because I don't have the machinist. So what it used to be is it used to be 7 long. So what you could do is, if you are wanting to have internally mounted hovers on builds, which I did, is you would have a frame sort of snake, zig and zig. Oh my god, yeah, network quality problems, no shit. Across, because you could alternate the sides and then have a hover go the remaining 7/8 of the width of the build, and then just alternate on the inside. So that was basically the dimensions of it. And then what they did is they just like completely chopped out the arm that actually pushes the rest of the hover over. So I believe they kept the size of the 4x4 of the actual turbine, but they cut out the arm and like smushed it a little bit. So as far as its hitbox, as per usual, the pips that connect directly to frame don't actually like have any collision. Right, you can have those stick through, and they can actually overlap if you put one on either side of a 1x frame, which I definitely tested immediately. As a result, of course, they kind of buddied stuff up closer. So for instance, originally I had stuff like that, the seal tucked above the jet, because the actual jet portion was out far enough that you could put stuff above it, but you can't actually have that there now because it collides with the turbine part of the jet. And this is kind of the weird part of the update, is as you can see, it says it's there, it says it's connected, and it says it's fine, but it very much isn't, based on, if nothing else, obviously, the ability for your placement of it. So if I stick this bad boy on, it probably immediately flops over. It kept some of the hovers even though they're in quote-unquote illegal placements, which is, for obvious reasons, problematic. Because it means that if you somehow ahead of time divined, oh, I will have parts that I can't put there in the future, then you could theoretically just clip them through before the update, save it, and then once they push the changes, okay, now you can't put a hover here in this situation. But if you already had it there, then it still works. You know, quote-unquote works. This is obviously not going to be a build that functions very well without the oopsie. The changes that you're going to have to make for their tippiness, especially because now that the hovers have a different hitbox, their center of mass and their center of rotation have all changed, as well as basically how much of a buffer they can actually act. So even if we just straight test drive this, it pretty much immediately tips. So this isn't necessarily useful, but again, theoretically you could use it, like I said, with the other examples of having parts clipping. And then I don't think that'll necessarily be problematic, but I guess we'll see, because if it only takes one person with like a build like that to be extremely difficult to deal with. So as far as the point, where is the one with all of the, there we go. So I'm just gonna save over that again with the new bastardized one. So the point being that that also propagates to other builds. So for instance, I don't really use a lot of hovers, but any ones that did in the past couple of days had all of their hovers relocated. So as a result, some of them are in different placements despite being placed in a series, like in a line. This one has a different placement than the others after the update. I don't know why that is, but as a result of it recognizing this as a valid placement, again, even though I can't actually put it there due to clipping with the fender, it does recognize it as valid. Now I don't know if it'll actually let me go into battles with it or whatnot, but it does at least let me test drive and it's still connected. Whereas, of course, all the other ones I'd have to rebuild around, which is going to be lots of fun. It's semi-sarcastic. Likewise, I did this, and now all of the hovers don't stick out that far, so I gotta do complete rebuild for it. Yippee. Because of course I can't just attach it, because I have a habit of building everything super tight to the proportions. Oh, look at that, I can actually get a couple of them on. Great. Well, gold, in that case, it's like it's not even a problem. Wonderful. And then, yeah, whatever. Oopsie. Oh, that's the other hover type, isn't it? I have those on the markets right now. But in any case, just consistent that if you have the hovers in a bad spot, then when you test drive, they get angry. So that's not terribly surprising. So as far as the actual footprint of these now, as I did mention, you can snap them on any side of... Oh, I'm not going to get used to that control change. I guess I'll talk about that now. So, I've changed controls a couple of times in the past, like 2 updates. It's very frustrating. So, map on the select button, menu on the menu button. That works great. That's pretty much every game ever. But if you go into build mode, storage is on the view button and garage is on the menu button. So the menu one does not have the menu and vice versa. So I can press start here and it opens up the menu, but if I test drive or build and then press start, it kicks me out, which is very, very frustrating, because I don't know why they made the changes. I have a feeling somebody's just tooling around during the update and then they push stuff without realizing it. I don't know, but it's been the other way for the longest time, where garage and storage have been swapped. And in fact, in the last update, they actually broke this where menu and map were backwards. So if you were test driving and you pressed select, it would actually, you know, I guess test drive's a different beast altogether, because it actually runs different controls since you have the garage rather than the menu. But this is correct currently for the sake of the select button, the left one opening up the map, and then the other one being start, which is go to garage. So I guess maybe to that end they're making it consistent between the two by having map on the left button. I don't know, what I'm getting at is it's confusing, because it was the other way for a long time, and they changed it, and it's undocumented change both times. So they messed it up. They reversed it with select and start for in-game with the map. They messed that up with the last update, and then they've unmessed that up with this update, but then they messed up the one for in the garage building. So I don't know what that's all about. But as far as the hovers themselves with their fancy new dimensions, in any case, that was sort of me just explaining why I'm going to close the build menu a lot by going to garage like that instead of opening up the actual inventory. So you can see they are super itty bitty. They do have a couple of rather interesting effects as a result of this. So this is again something I can't really show since they already made the change. So it's going to be very much a just trust me bro sort of scenario. But the hovers used to have a 4x7 profile with like the corners cut off, if that makes sense. So what used to happen is the pips closest to the frame weren't actually considered hover. They were considered empty, so you'd be able to attach 1x4 frames or something like that right there. I don't think that was particularly useful for anything specifically. I don't know if maybe one of my other hover builds at one point used it or something. Mostly nice for being able to Jenga around and make the super janky like S shape for the internal hover builds. But that was an option. And then likewise, I could be wrong, I believe you could do it on the far side as well. But since the hovers were 7 long, it wouldn't make much of a difference because it would fit the 8x4 frame entirely anyway. You wouldn't really need that other corner nor this one, and then you start working with powers of 2 because then the frames are 7 pips apart, whatever. So that was a thing. As shown with the maglev version, you used to be able to store different modules around the top of the arm of the hover, where the actual hover turbine itself wasn't being in the way. So now they've, like I said, effectively they've halved the size of these, so they made them way more dense, and as a result, I think personally easier to armor, harder to kill, which will end up being a buff that maybe does the opposite, where like, okay, great, now they're symmetrical, but also they're smaller and harder to kill, so you haven't really made sideways hovers any less viable. You made them easier to do on like front-facing cabins. So now you can use it with the Nova as well, and you can slap them behind the cabin, and now you can fit more easily in a smaller space overall. So they're smaller targets. So I don't actually know the vertical dimensions of these because that actually never mattered, but we will figure that out right now. In any case, they are obviously the 4x4 footprint as shown by the whole this thing. So 4x4 there. I imagine they're probably 5 or 6 tall. I'm not going to be too super concerned about what gets cut off as per usual, just because I think that these ones are pretty much filling all the pips. I don't think you're going to be able to like mesh armor around them very well anymore due to the changes. Oh, that I was immediately wrong. So they do have a little bit of concavity to them, or I guess convexity, which lets you put concave parts rather. So yeah, 3 above the frame, and then frame, and that looks like 2 underneath. So yeah, 6 tall by 4x4. So I really don't want to figure out the volume of all of the different parts, but I suppose I should probably do it for here. Oh man, dude, it is sucking with this connection thing. I'm gonna have to restart like my entire kit after this. So it looks like for the top one, it's literally just the middle 4 pips at least. Then for the layer below, I suspect that this is going to be an entire layer all the way around. A 4x4 without any pips missing. Yeah, seems to be. Don't seem to be able to get the corners. Cool, so the top one is 4, the next layer is 4x4, so 16, so I guess I better open up that spreadsheet on the other side. Get rid of the prior version one, do not save changes, open up the current one, move it to the other side, stretch this so it stops being angry. Nope, it's still angry. There we go. And then for the volume of the hover, I'm going to assume that both meshes run the same hitbox, because to do otherwise would be insane. So the new hitbox at least is 4 plus 16 plus 16. I'm sure it's going to be the same for most of the other layers, where you can't cut off the corners. Yeah, so second and third layers, nothing's cut off. Fourth layer doesn't look like anything's cut off again. So it's 4 plus 16 plus 16 plus 16. for the 5th layer, doesn't seem to have anything cut off. Doesn't seem to have anything cut off for either of the last 2 layers either, which is interesting because I would have expected it to be like a capsule where the top and the bottom are both just the 4x4, but I can't get around that at all. So I guess it's just straight up rectangular, I guess, like a silo. It's filled all the way down and then it has a circular top, I guess. Okay, so 4 plus 16 plus 16 plus 16 plus 16 plus 16. So they now have a volume of 84. And the Durapur volume is going to be very angry for the most part, which is fair because I don't have the other values. But compared to what they were, is going to be kind of difficult to ascertain because, again, I didn't actually measure how close you could build around them. It was just sort of, oh, if I can fit something somewhere, I'll do that. Like with the maglev, not this example, but the first one. I suppose I can also show how they have the 1x overlap now. So as a result of them extending so far, you can get pretty severe overlap of them. Which I evidently, like, I don't think they were aiming for that, but ended up happening anyway. Not like there's not lots of visual overlap with stuff anyway, especially with things like Big RAM, so hardly surprising or new. I will save that hover being off center though. Beaut. Here's the other example. I have the helicopter I made for the 4th of July competition that was also running the internal hovers. So this one I haven't edited unlike the maglev build. So as you can see, they changed the mounting point for them too. It wasn't quite straightforward as far as like, oh, just keep your location. Because again, I can't actually connect it there anymore due to not having this little pocket of 1x1, but it recognizes it as a valid placement otherwise, whereas this one got shunted over for no apparent reason, but has the same issue where with that pocket gone, can't actually have parts adjacent to the hover snap points. So yeah, again, this one went all the way. So yeah, here's an example of obviously me showing that you had the corners cut off beforehand, is because you had the bumpers there on the close side, and then on the far side you could also have the corner cut out. So again, I'm not entirely sure what the size of the hovers were because I never bothered to get like all the hardware modules or whatnot measured in volume beforehand, but at the very least it was roughly a 7x6x4 with obviously some caveats for the corners and then for being able to stash stuff above. I don't think I did any on this build, but I did on the with the iron seal on the maglev build. So I don't know what the actual volume change ends up being. Wonder if there's even any. Let's see, hover crossout. Yeah, so none of these are particularly useful. I could also show, actually, I did have the crater defense build, and that one was probably the one that I meshed like the tightest to them. So you can see that this does not work at all anymore, but we're sticking out far enough that you could have a few different pieces in between them. So this was based on the top part curving around the top of the turbine, and then I also had some connecting pieces which are kind of hard to see here because they're clipping through, but I had some of the Is it downstream? No, oh, that's right, I swapped it out for the small tank side part. So I had those underneath the balloon mounts, which you can kind of see there with the hovers gone. And that was using the 1x1 by whatever height corner chopped out of the hover. As well as this unnamed build, which obviously had the huge ramp where the hovers would go out due to the arm and then again follow the curve. This one is especially sucky because I only made this, I finished the build like 2 days ago, and now all this work for getting like this nice angled slant underneath the hovers is completely done. So like if I were to redo it, I'm gonna have to completely change the slant. On the plus side, I don't necessarily need the armor to extend out that far. On the negative side, it gave me a bunch of health. So, like I did on purpose. It was nice having the help. And now I'm not going to, unless I find out some other way to snap stuff. So yeah, so that's the top layer of it with the 4x. But I suspect you can't. Yeah, see, you can't put one vertically anymore because it's only the top section that's missing some pips and everything else is just a rectangle. So that's kind of annoying. As far as if I were to estimate the volume of them, I think it's probably fair to say that they kept the whole I'm just gonna go back so it doesn't get rid of my first build, which I actually use. It's probably safe to guess. I think that the hitbox of the hover itself was the same, so it would be whatever that value was, 84, I think. And then however much space the arm itself took up. And I don't actually know how much that was. I suppose if I can find builds that showcase them well enough, you can try and figure it out. So you can see there's some hips missing there for hitbox. Mind you, I don't know how old some of these builds are. They may have changed the hover hitbox between then and now, but I don't suppose Wikia would know. This Wikia is like super dead, so not expecting it to. Yeah, it doesn't. It only has. Oh no, actually no, these are the correct new stats. I was looking at the 4, not the 7. Interesting, somebody is still updating the Wikia. Oh, Godspeed, because you are probably like the only person updating the event or updating the pages. Yeah, see, and they don't even say, oh wow, look at that. Those changes though. Yeah, so they don't even say volume. So my best guess for what they for what their dimensions used to be would probably be treating this as another 2x4 and then with a 1x2x4 ramp. Or I guess, sorry, a 2x2x4 or 3, I guess. I don't know. Would have been really useful to have tested beforehand. Oh, you know what? I have the perfect way to find this out, because I actually have a build photo that somebody made, which I showed before, but that showed like super tight armor around it. Go to captures and then Crossout and then build and then Darth Nader. So this was using the old hovers. Oh, I didn't get a very good picture of it. Rough. Well, this is using the old hovers with armoring around them Damn, yeah, that's not a good picture at all for actually showing how much armor is around them. Well, shucks. I want to see if I have any other photos that run hovers, but I don't really think so. Let's see. Maybe the submissions for the hover had some internals. No, it doesn't look like it. Well, I do have a lot of other screenshots. Let's see if we can find one of anybody running hovers with lots of armor. Show the build. Yeah, so I think I'm just gonna have to kind of like best guess what. I don't suppose that's a video. No, of course not. What they were. But I do think that it was probably close to that guess of the 2x2x4 plus the ramp. So if we were to do a mock-up of it, and it maybe would have been, there's not really a whole lot of 3 long pieces, are there? Might just have to use a placeholder for my placeholder. Maybe kind of like that, but with this tip chopped off. Maybe. Let's see, I could probably... pseudo do it here, so if I slap the frame 3 more, and then I could put that there, but it gets angry because it doesn't actually have the corners chopped off anymore. And it would have been something. Like that. Maybe, except with a harsher slope, but I don't think we have any 3x. 2x1s. Just be like a slightly smaller elbow, I guess. Or yeah, kind of shaped like that, but flatter. I guess I could approximate it like see, it doesn't even let me put the full arm there either. Well, I don't have any snap points for it. Oh, you're killing me. There you go. Can kind of approximate it like that, maybe was the mesh. Because like I said, I know you could put stuff in the corners, and I know you can have a bit of an overhang. So that would probably be my best guess. Best mock-up as to how that's hitbox worked. Yeah, still don't really think they have any better photos of them. So yeah, or even I suppose, well, when it went up to the bottom of the rim. So it looks like it went up. Oh, what? I basically had enough space to slap the large fenders around them. So yeah, you did have at least 2 pips of clearance beforehand, because it would go extend to there, and then you'd have the like entire bulk of the hover sticking out still. Those look like kind of old graphics, but because then I had the scorched with the crater defense. Well, those would obviously cut out quite a bit of space. So obviously I'm going to have to redo all the hover builds. I did poke around with doing it with the maglev a little bit, but the other ones I'll have to probably completely redo on stream. Did say delete, yeah, okay. But I'm sure you're not going to be able to do what I did before due to the corners now being cut off. Just trying to think if I can get like an approximation on size with the scorched, but all that really tells me is that it's like 1 and then 1 pip out and then 1 pip up and then 1 pip out. One pip up, one pip out. Yeah. So I think I'll just use this as an approximation on volume. I suppose I could have also just done, like, I want to say it's a 3x2x1, but it's completely possible that it was really just a 3x1x1. Kind of like that. I'm just going to be lazy and not grab the others. But I don't know. Could have had then like the 2 pips there or something. They do kind of show them actually being nooked underneath that. Oh, I wonder if they completely fucked up the Knots Children faction builds, actually. Let's see. Honestly, I couldn't tell you whether or not they rebuilt them, or if there's just enough space for this not to affect them to begin with, because I never used any of these. It feels like maybe they just had enough space that it didn't matter. I don't know. Are there any other hover builds that could maybe tell us? I feel like they got to have rebuilt these. Maybe stretched out the middle a little bit so that they still take up roughly the same location, but don't extend all the way anymore. I don't know, it just kind of sucks because they like basically announced the update as a drop, so there wasn't really a way to sort of A/B test these. I guess there's another idea. I could just see what I have on my liked list that runs hovers. And if any of them still work, but I have doubts. Yeah, most of them just require complete replacement of the hovers. But of course I can't see inside most of these. I don't know. Okay, well, if we were to estimate, how would we estimate it? I'm just gonna say, with the dimensions I suggested, going up 1, out 1, and then up 1 and out 1. So where is that? There we go. So up, out, up and out. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I guess. Is that what I have here? I have 6. Yeah, so in the build, my approximation is basically a 3x3x2, and then with another pip there. So that would be another 20 I guess, size to them. So if we go into the spreadsheet, I'm going to estimate them as being 104. So yeah, the changes for the actual physical dimensions, assuming that I'm right again, are significantly improved. So yeah, huge increase in durability, and then you slightly decrease durability, but you also decrease volume significantly. So you're looking at a very similar value after the second update compared to the first one. So they're smaller and they're way more durable than before. Well, maybe not way more, they're a bit more durable than before. Not as durable as after the first check, but still a bit more durable, and then a lot smaller. So even if the volume is that, I mean, if you look at the approximate footprint of them being going from 168 to the 6x4x4, whoops. Yeah, so then by that logic they actually got improved twice for durability per volume. If we're just looking at like the raw sort of silhouette of them, i.e. the likelihood of you hitting or seeing them if you're looking at that particular side, then they just straight up got like size efficiency upgrades. So yeah, as far as building with them now, obviously I've kind of tooled around with them a bit. Like I said, it is somewhat unfortunate. It's actually harder to do internal hovers if you're trying to keep to a size of 8 or smaller in width, because I can't expand this anymore without like significantly pushing everything on the sides out. But it's 1 pip away from me being able to put in a second hover on the inside. But I can't, because for me to put a second hover would require me to use all 8 pips to use 2 of them for 4. And then I'd have to build frames around it, but there's currently, you know, the actual build there, so yeah. I wonder if they fixed the wheels to fit underneath the Ghost yet. Completely unrelated to everything I've been talking about, but Ghost has been struggling for so long. Yep, still not vindicated. What a world. So yeah, for internal hovers, if you have them on the sides, then it's actually kind of interesting to note that this should be a stability nerf, because now that they have... Oh, I'm so not ready for all these control changes. Because now that they're stubbier, they should be not able to reach as wide, if that makes sense, as far as what they can actually prevent tipping. Let's go back to the actual build. There we go. Boo. So beforehand, if I had double this length in order to like be stable effectively, having it should mean that they can't go as far to either side. But again, I'm not sure. Maybe the hovers did only wiggle that much beforehand anyway, in which case that's not like a huge change, but you would still see the fact that they're like where they're enacting the force being closer rather than further out means that it has a different amount, different relative effect due to how angular torsion works and whatnot. So I believe that they should still have less of an effect now to being smaller, being closer, so they should be less stable. That being said, somebody posted on Reddit about how you could have a 2 howl grubber 2-hover growl cabin and it would be remarkably stable due to how ever the new physics calculates it. But like in theory, yeah, so that's relatively unstable. And if I expand the base of it, I'm actually going to use the lightweight frames here so that it's not a change in mass. Just a change in the concentration of it and location of hovers. So just moving the mass out further doesn't really make me more stable. If anything, it's just because it like holds me up, prevents flipping. Moving the hovers out one side should make me more tippy in one direction than the other. Laterally from side to side. Doesn't actually seem to have much of an effect. Oh, this is a teeny build with like no mass on it, so maybe not. But it did immediately increase my stability forward and back. Yeah, so even hard changing directions doesn't make me tip. And then obviously the more you do that, the less bopping around you get. Yeah, hook 'em up, bot. Yeah, you get those barrels, buddy. Yeah, so the further apart they are, the more stable. That's not really anything new, but it should be extra important now that they only stick out half as far as before. As far as building with them, so I did... Yeah, they don't need that here currently. So I did really like using the large fenders and or the Bartizan with them, as could be seen with the repeater build. Bro, so many reworks in this exhibition, like, or for stuff to put on the exhibition, like we had the speed change and the track speed change and the co-driver change and then the Supercharged update, now Supercharged 2, which isn't technically its own update, but just, I mean, they labeled it as such, and it changes stuff again. Man, dude, these exhibition builds, I'm never going to get around to re-uploading all of these. Ugh, and that's going to reset all my likes and downloads, my internet points. Rough. Anyway, so I liked using the large fenders, the Bartizans on them before. Not really an option anymore due to how slim they are now. Because these would just go over the little branch of the arm of the hover, and then the actual like turbine itself would be sticking up, but there's only so much you can do about that itself. So now that they're small, options are going to be a bit more limited, because I mean, wild guess, you could just push the hover further out. That's not really covering anything. In fact, it isn't covering anything, it's just covering the frames, so that's minimally useful. Although I will say that does protect the frames quite well. But that's always been the case, that's not like new or anything. That should have been always the way, just never really had any reason to do it that way before. Let's see, Bartizan, I don't suspect fits much different, yeah. So in any case, that doesn't actually protect, you know, the hover, its mesh at all. But you could run the reflector on top of our good old friend, the regular fender, because that'll wrap around it and protect it a little bit. The reflector a little bit more, that actually causes clipping issues. That's basically as much as you're going to get as far as fenders protecting them, and then like 3/4 of this durability between the two of them is on the small one, so if you knock off the big one, you lose the entire kit and caboodle anyway. But I think that's probably about as good as you're going to get for protecting without actually making your stuff. Yeah, see, so because it's not a capsule with like the same shape and curve at the top as the bottom, you can't quite hook stuff in. So you could probably, yeah, so you can use a shape like that on the top for a little bit of it and protect it. I'm just gonna be lazy. So you could do that on the top, which is what I was kind of demonstrating with the hover, or sorry, with the fender. But you can't, oh, this is gonna be awful. But you can't do that at the bottom, because as shown we didn't have the little cutouts on the bottom, which kind of makes sense too, because I suppose the bottom rotates a little bit further around the pivot point than the top. No, I guess they should rotate around the same. I don't know, so I guess that's just a mesh issue. Because when you move it around, it obviously wiggles around. Shocker, I know. I was gonna say, if the center of rotation was lower than it is high, it would kind of make sense to have the bottom rotate more and thus need to swing side to side and forward and backward more and thus not have the corners cut out. But it looks like the frame part slash center rotation is pretty much bang center in the middle of the mesh, so I don't really think that's the case. If so, it's minor enough to not really be super noticeable. If I attach all these frames, sorry, all these hovers, so we can actually fly around. Because I know that's the issue with legs, they have such a huge invisible hitbox because you need space for them to actually move around. Yeah, okay, no, so it does look like the bottom does move around a little bit further in each direction than the top. Like ever so slightly, but because it's not fully rounded, it kind of flattens out. That they actually do need to go like all the way over there, and that's probably why they don't let you build as tightly around it. In any case, you can't do a whole lot as far as wrapping around them, I don't think. I wonder if the Darth Vader one is still an option. See, they're kind of hard to tell. Very hard to tell. Definitely should have grabbed a better screenshot of it while I had the chance. But if they've... Oh yeah, no, I don't think this is a thing either, because it looks like you only have 2 pips of space there. And again, you don't have those pips anymore. It looks like it's really struggling, the mesh anyway. But I suppose we could try and see if we can get a torque. How many of these do they use? 1, 2, 3, 4, okay. That's about halfway, so we could... I can try that and see if it plays nice, but I have my doubts. So they had it like that, but it was stuck further out, so if we get both sides... and we grab a little block, and then we attach to that block. Yeah, no, it does not like that wrapping at all. So I don't think that's an option anymore unless I eyeballed it wrong. But it seems to be right. So maybe they have had a couple of hitbox changes. Yeah, so I assume if anything it would probably prefer being upside down, because then you have the wider part at the bottom. Even then I don't think you're going to get, yeah, you're not going to get very tightly to it at all. Whereas to be fair, that part could have been in the way. Yeah, but like, no, it does not like that part there. If I just double check, make sure that the other part wasn't in the way. Yeah, that's not really any better. Likewise with the upside down one. Yeah, so you can't really wrap very tightly at all. That being said, it's, I mean, easier than it's ever been to throw some parts in front of them. So if I go to exhibition, grab the where are they? Silo. Download, no, not you. Gets angry. Blah blah blah. Oh, see, that's interesting. So like this entire side says it's still connected, which I'm sure it probably can't actually. Yeah. So I have half of a build glitched due to their update. Nice. Now I only have to update one half on this one. Haha. Oh, it really does not like having parts anywhere near it, doesn't. Very finicky now. But in any case, like the amount of like lateral protection you need to offer to them is greatly diminished. Really don't have to worry about much. I mean, I could argue that you can almost just take those pieces off entirely. So crazy what happens when they shrink by 3 pips, they get smaller by 3 pips, eh? Because, yeah, beforehand they stuck out all the way to the end, of course. I think actually they stuck out past the end a very little bit. Probably have a video on it. I'm not too terribly concerned on the subject matter, on the correctness of that statement at this point. Oh, that's interesting, though. It looks like this is flush. I feel like it should connect, but it looks like it actually won't. So, what is up with that? Oh, it's because I'm dumb. I have that there. Well, okay. That makes a bit more sense. Let's probably agree with that. Yep. Yep. So... yeah. Could end up potentially saving quite a bit of space with protecting them. Okay, well, certainly a lot of new things to consider with this update, even though, like I said, it's such a small, like, focus. It's obviously just restricted to these new hover stats, basically, but they are not insignificant amount of change by any means. So I guess we'll see what ends up happening. Like I said, obviously I need to change a bunch of my hover builds, limited in use though they may be. I'll have to see if it ends up being very problematic. I imagine we're just gonna straight up see people running like boxes of those internal hovers, and they're gonna be like nigh untouchable short of scorpions. But we'll have to see how it goes, because them also having the shorter arm length, like I said, means that they should in theory be more tippy, so maybe it's a self-correcting problem. Gonna have to see how she goes.